Welcome to Betrayal Stories. In today's video, you're going to hear a story that's hard to believe. A story of control, manipulation, and one woman's fight to reclaim her freedom. So, before we begin, make sure you're subscribed and hit that like button, because this one will leave you speechless. Let's begin. My name is Isabel, and I'm 20 years old. When people meet me, they usually see a calm, quiet girl. But behind that calm, there's a storm that most could never imagine. My story begins long before I learned to recognize what betrayal truly feels like. When I was 8, my parents separated. It wasn't a dramatic breakup, no yelling, no fights, just silence. A silence that would echo through the rest of my childhood. My mother and I moved into a small apartment above a bakery in Lyon. My father stayed in Paris, a successful businessman who always seemed too busy for real life. At first, I told myself it was fine, that he loved me in his own way. That distance didn't mean abandonment, but as the years went on, I saw less and less of him, until he became more of an idea than a person. Mom tried to rebuild her life. She met Pierre, a kind but traditional baker. He was polite, even caring, but strict. There were rules for everything. How I dressed, how I spoke, how I laughed. I wasn't free to be a child. While other girls went to the park after school, I was expected to help knead dough or sweep the shop floor. It wasn't cruel, but it was confining, like living in a home where air was rationed. Still, I smiled. I pretended everything was fine, because that's what I'd learned from both my parents. When something hurts, you hide it. When I turned 15, I couldn't stand it anymore. My dad called one day, something he hadn't done in months. He said he missed me, that Paris was emptier without my laughter, and for the first time, I saw an escape. Mom resisted. She said he didn't know how to take care of anyone but himself, but after many tears, she finally agreed. I packed my small suitcase and boarded a train to Paris, my heart racing, my head full of dreams. When I arrived, the city seemed alive, magical. Dad lived in a houseman apartment with tall ceilings, gold-trimmed mirrors, and the smell of cologne in the air. He greeted me with open arms, like I was a long-lost treasure. Beside him stood his partner, Sylvie, a gentle woman with a warm smile and soft eyes. She welcomed me instantly. She wasn't like Mom or Pierre. She didn't give orders, didn't scold, didn't control. She listened. She cooked my favorite dishes, laughed at my jokes, and helped me with homework late into the night. For the first time in years, I felt seen, but happiness in my world never lasted. 2 years later, Sylvie fell ill. She passed away after a long fight with cancer, and the light in our apartment faded with her. Dad didn't speak for days. He locked himself in his office, and I could hear the muffled sound of his grief through the door. That was when I decided to take care of him, to cook, clean, keep the home together. I thought it was my duty, but somewhere along the way, the balance shifted. Dad started calling me his little savior. He depended on me for everything: meals, errands, emotional comfort. If I wanted to go out, he'd say, "You're all I have left, Isabel. Stay home tonight." It sounded affectionate, but the words wrapped around me like invisible chains. At first, I didn't see it. I thought he just needed me. But then it grew. He questioned who I spoke to, checked my phone, asked where I went after class. He'd make me feel guilty for smiling at people. "Do you really need anyone else?" he'd ask. "You have me." And every time I'd shrink a little more. His control wasn't loud. It was quiet, gentle, almost loving. That's what made it so dangerous. He'd say, "I just worry. The world's cruel, Isabel. I don't want anyone to hurt you." And because I'd seen how broken he was after Sylvie, I believed him. Weeks turned into months. My friends drifted away. I started staying home more often. I told myself it was easier that way. Less drama, less risk. But deep inside, I was suffocating. One night I came home late from university. Dad was waiting at the door, his face tight with anger. "Where were you?" "I told you, study group. I said. He didn't believe me. He never did. He slammed the door behind me and whispered, "Don't lie to me, Isabel." You know I can't stand lies. His tone wasn't loud, but it pierced me like a blade. That was the night I realized I wasn't living with a grieving father. I was living with a man who needed control more than he needed love. The next morning, he acted as if nothing had happened. He made pancakes, smiled, and said, "I just worry about you." It was the start of a cycle. Control, guilt, apology, a loop I couldn't escape. When I turned 20, I started working part-time at a bookstore near Saint-Germain. It was the first real freedom I'd had in years. The smell of old paper, the hum of conversation, the gentle light through the windows. It all felt like life again. There, I met Julian, a university student with an easy smile and a mind full of ideas. He made me laugh again. He made me feel seen. When he walked me home, I felt the warmth of normal life returning. But when Dad saw him at the door, his face froze. He didn't say much, just stared at Julian, cold and silent. After Julian left, Dad turned to me and said, "He's not right for you. He's only after one thing." I wanted to argue, but fear kept me quiet. He wasn't angry. He was calm, and too calm. That made it worse. Over the next few weeks, he made sure I barely saw Julian. He'd call me suddenly, ask where I was, demand I come home. If I said no, he'd say, "I just had a bad feeling. Please come home," for me. And every time I gave in. Julian noticed the change. He asked, "Why do you let him control you like this?" I didn't have an answer. I didn't even realize how much he did, until that question echoed in my mind for days. Then one morning, everything changed. I was cleaning Dad's study when I found something, a locked drawer. Inside were journals. At first I thought they were business notes, but when I opened one, my blood turned cold. They were filled with entries about me, what time I left the house, who I spoke to, what clothes I wore. Every detail of my life was recorded, like I was under surveillance. In one entry, he wrote, "She doesn't understand how fragile she is. I must protect her from everyone and even herself." I felt sick. Protect me? No, he was isolating me, controlling me. That night, I confronted him. "Why are you keeping these?" I asked, holding up the journal. His face went pale. He said, "You wouldn't understand. I'm just keeping you safe." "Safe from what?" I demanded. He looked at me, his eyes dark and glassy. "From the world," he whispered. "From people who'll destroy you." For the first time, I saw it. Not love, not protection, but obsession. I knew then that I had to leave. But leaving wasn't easy. Every time I tried to go out, he found a reason to keep me. "There's a strike today. It's dangerous outside. You look tired. Stay in." He never yelled, never hit. He didn't have to. His control was quiet, suffocating, and absolute. So I planned silently. I saved bits of money from the bookstore, hid it under my mattress, and waited for the right moment. That moment came one rainy afternoon. Dad left for a business meeting, something rare. I packed my things, grabbed the money, and walked out without looking back. For the first time, Paris felt enormous and terrifying, but also free. I took a train to Marseille. I'd never been there, but I wanted to go as far away as I could. The sea breeze, the sound of gulls, the smell of salt. It felt like another planet. I rented a small room in a hostel and found a job in a cafe. At night, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking he'd find me. Every shadow, every knock on the door made my heart race, but days turned into weeks. And slowly, I started breathing again. Julian found me through a mutual friend. He came to the cafe one evening, his eyes full of worry and relief. "I thought I lost you," he said. I wanted to cry, but all I could say was, "I'm still here." He didn't ask questions. He didn't push. He just sat there and held my hand, and for the first time in years, I didn't feel owned. I felt understood. Months passed. I rented a small apartment near the harbor, started painting again, enrolled in evening classes. My laughter came back. My smile didn't feel fake anymore. Then one morning I received a letter from Paris. It was from my father. He wrote, "I hope you're safe. I know I made mistakes. I'm getting help now. I want you to live freely. Please forgive me." I didn't know if it was real or manipulation again, but it didn't matter, because I didn't need his permission to be free anymore. I burned the letter, not out of hate, but closure. I watched the flames curl around his words until nothing remained but ash. And with that, the weight I'd carried for so long finally lifted. Today, I tell this story not as a victim, but as someone who survived emotional captivity. People often think betrayal only happens between lovers or friends, but sometimes it comes from the person who's supposed to protect you the most. If you've ever felt controlled, watched, or silenced, know this: you are not weak for leaving. You are brave for choosing peace. Because sometimes, the most powerful act of love isn't staying, it's walking away. If you were Isabel, what would you have done? Tell me in the comments below, and remember, not all cages have bars, and not all prisons have locks. Sometimes freedom begins the moment you say, "Enough. Thank you for watching today's story on Betrayal Stories." Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more real-life stories that reveal the hidden truths behind human hearts. Until next time, stay strong, stay aware, and never let anyone own your light.